Hey, land back. This is Chief Oju of the Curriculum Committee here at Black Hammer. We need you, revolutionary educators, whether you're teaching in your school or teaching your kid the revolutionary ABCs at the work. We need you to join our curriculum committee so we can teach our young people, our members, and everyone out there about Black Hammer's revolutionary anti-colonial line. All right? Join today and let's get to teaching our people.
Check. Hey, good morning, Hammers. How are you doing this morning? How are you doing today, Chief Mina?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling excited, Comrade Cthulhu. This is our last book trap for Patrice Lumumba. And this has been exciting, yeah?
It's been awesome. Like,
Yes.
let's finish. I learned so much, and even was encouraged to do a lot of external reading, and this is why we do this, like, right? So I'm pretty glad I read this book with the Hammers and you. It's been awesome.
It has. Land back, everyone. I see some land back coming in. Good morning.
Yeah, I'm back.
Or good afternoon or good evening, depending on what part of the world you're in.
Yeah, good morning, Benjamin. Good morning, Robert. Good morning, Sante. Good morning, Comrade Anastasia. Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Yes, yes. Let's get this PE. All right, Chief Shagun calling y'all out. Chief Shagun calling y'all out.
Where the Colorado Hammers at? I see. Right. Morning. Right back.
Yes, let's make sure that you all are sharing as you come in. Like it and share it. Send it to all of your groups. You know, let's get this political education out, right? Like this isn't just an hour for us to gather and have a little book club, right? Like this is actual political education that we need to get out to the masses. We need to make sure that the masses knows of Patrice Lumumba, right? Knows of the tactics that were used against Patrice Lumumba. So make sure that you all are sharing this. Share it with your friends.
Yes, make sure you're sharing this. And also, first of all, what chapters are we reading? Right now, chapters 18 to 22, the end of the book. Kind of what is it about?
Yeah, so chapters 18 through 22, y'all, oh my gosh, it really takes us through like a whirlwind, right? So, we're really looking at, how like colonialism, how like these colonial processes really like came together with these colonial sellouts and traders to try to take out Patrice Lumumba, right? They tried to stop the revolution, y'all, but they just couldn't, they came together, plotted for his murder, had failed attempts to like overthrow him. And, the only way that they could really get rid of him was murdering him, and, that isn't really a spoiler because we know what the ending result was, right? We know how Lumumba was taken, but this is going to show us how Lumumba remains, okay? And how the people were essential to this resistance, right?
Right. Yeah, we always get on this book for having like petit bourgeois language and stuff like that, but it really highlights the will of the masses and the brilliance of the masses along with Patrice Lumumba. So even when, because he was jailed many times, and the masses still had its own mind to help the counter revolution. So that's going to be interesting. But I think that's a good segue. Speaking of the masses, and I guess building tool power, we are still fundraising for Hammer City. Yes, no rent, no Rona, no cops, no white people. We are returning the land to the indigenous people of Turtle Island. We're reaching our goals very rapidly. So if you have any spare money, leftover Christmas money, or anything to donate, please donate to Hammer City. That's Build Hammer. That's GoFundMe.com/Build Hammer City. So who's going to be the first to donate?
Yes. Let's see, get these donations in. We can tackle this land question, right? And it's funny because we call it the land question, but we know what the answer is. Right. We know that the answer, is returning land to indigenous people, right? We know that the answer is colonized unity. We know, that the answer is the removal of, these colonial structures that really want to keep us in the position that we are in.
Right.
Let's see, we have a couple of donations coming in the chat. Let's see, Benjamin got 10.
Shout out to Chief Alex with 10 on it. Chief I with 5. Comrade Robert with 5 on it.
Yes, I'm back. So we already got 30 getting started this morning. We do have our usual goal of 100. So Lambach, shout out to those comrades who've already got us started off strong with 30, going straight to Hammer City.
Right, and as we're waiting for donations, we also have for Hammer City. We also have a trivia question to kind of pick your brains and have some history for this morning, along with the political education. So,
yes, BookTrap trivia, y'all. I love it.
Trivia.
Convinced, I really love that we did this BookTrap trivia. This is live.
Oh yeah, it's been cool. The Congo faced 6 name changes over a span of 11 years due to colonialism. Which of these was a name before its current name of the Democratic Republic of Congo?
Yes, so which of these was the name?
Yes, the choices are A, Lesotho, B, Togo, C, Zaire, D, Lumumba land. So as you guys think about that, make sure you guys keep sharing and donating to Hammer City. Hammer City will be up before we know it, building dual power and giving the land back to the indigenous people of Turtle Island.
Yes, Benjamin said, whoever get it wrong, give a little something to Hammer City.
All right.
Yes, Benjamin. See, okay, Alex is saying, okay, C question mark. Is it Alex? Is it C?
Is it?
What else y'all got? Okay, I said Lumumba land for sure. Okay, I said B, Togo. All right, so we have a few choices coming here.
Shout out to SH for the $10 donation. Appreciate it.
Yes. All right, so the correct answer is Zaire.
Zaire.
Yes. All right, y'all did good on that trivia.
Yeah, so big up to everyone who got it right.
Yes. Alex got it right.
But yeah, I guess as we go into our first read that back, keep sharing and keep donating to Hammer City. So far we're about $40 in, so we need about 60 more by the end of the book chat. We have plenty of time to do that, but right now I guess we're gonna go into our first read that back.
Yes. So, oh gosh, okay, let me give y'all the rundown, right, of like what's been happening up to this point. So, we've talked about, in the previous chapters, right, these sellouts who have been at Lumumba's neck with the help of the Belgian government, right? So you have these traitors like Kasavubu, Mobutu, who are like attempting to create a coup, that's fully supported by their masters, the Belgians. And the Belgians are like toasting this, right? Yeah, a coup. Meanwhile, as they're trying to plot the removal of Lumumba and hoping to dissolve like parliament who's voting on Lumumba's side and creating a new government, Lumumba essentially becomes victorious, right? And was given full power to deal with these traitors. And so we're gonna read this one and really internalize why that was. All right. When Kasavubu announced his coup, the Belgians in Leopoldville toasted the news with drinks. They urged Tshombe to join hands with him. Belgian ministers in Brussels were delighted and promised him full support. The U.S. Officials, while making no public comment, said privately, "It is about time." Within a week, Lumumba had broken this network of conspiracy and had seized the initiative once again. Lumumba's victory was a blow to the US dominated UN command, for in the crisis, it had openly sided with Kasavubu. A correspondent of Christian Science Monitor wrote on 7 September 1960 that what the UN is in fact doing, observers here say that it is helping to oust Patrice Lumumba from the premiership of the Congo. The reporter of La Belge Libre was equally forthright when he wrote, if Messrs. Kasavubu and Ileo finally win the victory they deserve, they will owe it to the United Nations. Without UN authority, Lumumba would in a few hours regain control with a few hundred of these loyal to him. Bourgeoisie institutions are meant to be instruments to carry out the policies of the dominant class. The bourgeoisie once again, Lumumba seizing the initiative and not giving his enemies time to regroup and corrupt, turned the tables on the agents of imperialism by using their own parliamentary institution against them. The bourgeoisie, in their deception of the people, spread the fairy tale that all power emanates from Parliament, the highest legislative organ of the land. Yet it was Parliament that passed a vote of no confidence in Kasavubu and gave Lumumba full emergency powers. This victory in Parliament was but a reflection of what was taking place among the people who were moving towards their premier. Though I really united with this, piece of like political education right in the middle of the book, right? And I really connected it with our fourth principle of unity, right? That says, the colonized proletariat are the only true proletariat, and it is only through our leadership that white power, capitalism, colonialism, imperialism, and all its symptomatic offspring can be smashed, right? The Belgians really thought that, their use of using their government forms would lead them to victory, right? They thought that, because, Parliament is this say all, do all for them, that is what the result was going to be, and that these sellouts, these colonial sellouts were going to be on their side, right? And this is really a reminder for us of how Congolese people sat in the parliament, right? They constantly tried to use the people of the Congo, the people of Africa, to fight against Lumumba, right? But these people in the parliament, in the Senate, they knew what the ending result would be without Lumumba. And they did not want that to go forth, right? And so this is a reminder for us that power, no matter how much colonialism is trying to intervene, still belongs with the people. And when the people know that they're going to have your backs, right? And that's what happened with Lumumba.
Yeah. So I agree with everything you said. I think it's also important to note, throughout the book, even though Patrice Lumumba was brilliant in his tactics, it's always seemed like the imperial powers were always had a backup plan. Okay, well, this doesn't work, we'll bring out this thing had the whole time, right? So it just it reminds me of the Kwame Ture quote of we're not outnumbered, we're out organized. So it's this is kind of why we kind of learned this type of stuff, because even Lumumba almost succeeded, just reacting to the situation and quick thinking, and of course the willing masses had his back the whole time, but but it's just kind of I guess interesting to see just how organized the imperial powers were in all of this too. It's funny. The book mentions Kasavubu and Mobutu had no idea what the other was doing. They were just two individuals in the dark, but it all came together for the imperial powers in seizing power over Congo. So I think that's just interesting to note. And I guess when we think about it, how do we organize against that type of organization, and something to think about.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned how, they came together, right? Their own like individual interests
Yeah.
involved coming together to remove Lumumba, because that was the only way that, their like individualism could thrive.
Right. And then it's also ironic because Mobutu oust Kasavubu later, so it's like, yeah, that's what you get. But I mean, it's crazy.
Let's see. Benjamin said, okay, yes, counter-revolution is an organized effort too. We have to be prepared for the revolution and the resistance against revolution that comes after. Absolutely. We say all the time that, when when land is returned, right? When the revolution is over, colonizers aren't going anywhere, right? Colonizers are still going to be here. And so we have to be prepared for the counter-revolution. So I love that you said that, Benjamin.
Right. So like strengthen our cadre, make sure we are I guess knee deep in this political line and not budging from it. Of course, keeping it scientific and making sure that the masses' needs are met. So definitely. I guess next is that's a little early. Audience read that backs. Unless you want to discuss this a little bit more. Do you have any other points? Wait, I can't hear you.
No, yeah. Let's go ahead and move into our audience read that back.
Right.
Yes. I hope you all are prepared. We're gonna go into okay, so we're gonna go into our commercial while that's playing. Get your read that backs prepared, okay? Go ahead and drop them into the chat.
Welcome aboard the Mad Mothership.
The Mad Hammers beaming you up to the hottest revolutionary dance party right in your own home. We are the tastemakers of the soundtrack to the revolution, featuring original music and dance moves from our Mad Hammers. We take you on a journey from the past to the present, all the way to our freedom future. Join us New Year's Eve at 10 p.m. Eastern. Come get this political education, bring in the new year, and party like it's $29.99. Get your tickets now at tinyurl.com/madmothership. Land back.
Don't you go changing nothing.
Oh, yeah.
You're cooler than all the guys. Maturer. How high you fly over. I'm going to fly over.
Hey, shout out to Chief Olu for that. I'm excited for that
Yes,
too.
I love it.
Awesome. That was beautiful.
I love it.
Yeah. We do have our read that back, so I'll read it real quick. The United Nations, as a result of their mischievous action in Congo, wish to sow the seeds of discord between the Congo and Ghana. The situation has been clarified, and our ties are now stronger than ever. Consequently, there is no further disagreement between us. You can rely on me and I on you. Today, we are one, our countries are one. PS Parliament has given me full powers, and I have the law behind me. So this This, I guess I read that back, is so important because, given everything, the UN had the Ghanaian troops disarming Congolese troops and causing discord and, all the propaganda. And even when all that was happening, Patrice Lumumba writes a letter to Kwame Nkrumah after the Ghanaian troops had not let them seize, the Ghanaian troops had not Lumumba into the radio station because the radio station had been taken over, but they let people like Kasavubu talk on the radio stations as much as they wanted. So it's just like clearly what the UN was doing with these Ghanaian troops. And why is the radio station important? For to communicate with the masses, right? Because that was the best form of communication before internet. So all this is happening, but you expect there'd be a falling out between Congo and Ghana. But it's just that communication between Patrice Lumumba and Kwame Nkrumah that strengthened their bond even more during this time, right? So given all that against them, Patrice Lumumba had faith in his comrade, regardless of what was going on, and then their bond strengthened during the time. So it's just, that's really powerful because it's just interesting to see. And what can we what I guess principle of unity can we relate that to? Probably
Gosh, I mean, I feel like we can really relate like that to like principle of unity, number 2, right? That we are all equal. That's something that like Lumumba and Nkrumah, both like understood, right? And so even in the midst of the militaries like trying to betray them, right, their own, people going to battle against them, they still had like this unity within each other. And, I feel like that's something that is so, important. Like you said, like pulling that out is such an important thing to acknowledge because, Nkrumah, even when Lumumba contacted Nkrumah and was like, listen, your military personnel are helping out, the colonizers, right? Like they're going against me. And Nkrumah was like, I'm ready to go to battle with you. I'm in this for the long run. And if need be, I will remove, those people, right? I will remove these troops if they are getting in the way of us getting this like full freedom, right? And, in the midst of that, I think the beautiful thing about it and the reason how it even like really hones in on that second principle is because even in the midst of them being, like having these traitors, come out and, the military, like people betraying them, even in the midst of that, right? They didn't stop and say, like the issue itself are these people, right? They didn't put the blame on the African people, they put the blame still on colonialism, right? Because they understood that, these like, Africans were being, taught, like they were being coerced, into this like individualistic sort of nature, right? So, I'm really glad. Shout out Benjamin for bringing that one. It looks like we have another read that back as well, if we wanted to get to that one. See, Lay says, okay, using criticism, self-criticism, we can win the revolution against neocolonialism. The time has come to speak plainly. The danger in the Congo is not so much the possibility of a civil war between Africans, but rather a colonialist war in which the colonial and imperialist powers hide behind African puppet regimes. Yes. And I love, I love that you even, called out here, right, using like criticisms and self-criticism, right? Because there are times like, Lumumba saw where you have to call out things plainly as they are, right? The fact that, he says, okay, like it's not the Africans, right, but rather colonialist war in which, you know, these colonial and imperialist powers hide behind, right, in this African puppet regime. So in understanding that, you know, it isn't, and I feel like that goes toward our third principle of unity, right, in understanding that our problem itself is colonialism. That's the issue. And colonialism hides behind these people who are willing to sell out, right? But we see, like, in the way that Lumumba and Nkrumah talked with each other, that these things have to be called out immediately and plainly for what they are.
Right. And thank you, CJ, for I guess politicizing that for us. That was awesome. But yeah, and kind of tying into what Chief Oju's saying, don't blame the people, blame colonialism. Like I said, always reminds me that another Kwame Ture quote, you know, you'll never come to the right analysis unless you factor in the enemy. You know, if you're not including the enemy analysis, you're just doing kind of lip service for the enemy. And I guess innately reactionary. So that's very important. So that's an awesome quote. I'll read that back. Yeah. I guess we could go into our second read that back.
Yeah, definitely. So we can go ahead and go into that one.
All right, just reading it. So the lesson then from the Congo, as well as, let me make sure it's up first before I start reading. Okay. The lesson then from the Congo, as well as in Guinea and elsewhere, is that the struggle against imperialism for economic independence must involve equally a struggle against the bourgeois, which is tied to the apron strings of imperialism. Kwame Nkrumah, in his Class Struggle in Africa, says the bureaucratic bourgeois, the inheritors of the functions of earlier ruling classes, are closely connected with foreign firms, with the diplomats of imperialist countries, and with the African exploiting class. Although not a cohesive elite, they are in general dedicated to the capitalist path of development and are among the most devoted indigenous agents of neocolonialism. Their education and class position largely isolate them from the masses. The African bourgeois in the immediate post-independence period was essentially bureaucratic. With a small trading class in other countries, it would rightly be classed as the petty bourgeois. But there was no indigenous class above it. Especially, it was at the beginning a bourgeois without any property, let alone capital. Having arrived late on the historical scene at the time when the world was already going socialist, one can understand its desperate haste to catch up with history. Its thirst for accumulation was insatiable. Its tastes were bougie, as well as its aspirations. But unlike the classical bourgeois, this bourgeois was not involved in production, for the profitable sectors of the economy were already cornered by foreign super monopoly corporations. Therefore, all that they could sell was their political power and influence in state machinery. This is what they gave to imperialism in return for money and goods. The state machinery, thus one large cesspool of corruption, it became the fashion to put oneself up for sale in order to get rich quickly. Cabinet ministers, and that's cut off on mine, but could be bought for like 20 cents. So that's kind of, we can relate that to, you know, liberals today, right? You know, you can kind of relate that to liberals and how, even though they're overall still getting exploited because, you know, they think they're getting something compared to what they had before, which is more, that's enough for them to disunite with the masses. And again, I think critiquing some of the petty bourgeois language in the book, their education and class position largely isolate them from the masses. That's not what isolates them from the masses. You know, their brilliance is not what isolates them from the masses. So just being critical of that kind of petty bourgeois language. But this is probably principle of unity number 3 about getting like neocolonialism's puppets at the paint. But it's just interesting that, you know, in the grand scheme of things, just how little it takes for these people to, you know, disunite the masses. And I guess the book kind of goes into what their incentive was. It's like, okay, they've never like I said, they never had anything, and they felt like they had to catch up. But, you know, they didn't even own the land. You know, they were just like getting paid off, and to them it was power. And, you know, it's like, all right, here's $20. Give me all your political power. You know, it's just kind of like, to them, like individualism, right? So liberalism. So that's actually it.
I think it's it's also an important moment to to call out the fact that there is like no African bourgeoisie, right? That like there is no like true colonized bourgeoisie in general, right? Because just as you said, right, like there's no like control of production, right? And so I think remembering that, and another thing that is so like important to pull up is how like these institutions were used, right? So we had sort of dappered a little bit in our discussion last week about how the military was used, right? How when the UN like brought in military personnel, it was African military, and so like using military power within this work against Lumumba. And the issue being, as you had mentioned, was like the fact that Lumumba had not used the military, to politicize, right, like what the issue was. And because of that, it was almost one of these things that we can consider to be a downfall or a reminder of like using all sectors to maintain our political line and what it is that we're trying to push forward, right? So because Lumumba did not, politicize the military, because Lumumba did not, see like the military itself as like, something to grasp, is rather the assumption that the military, because it was sent from African nations, would somehow, be a support of him. Imperialism used this, right? They used this to their own advantage, causing, Lumumba to have to constantly rebuild. Yeah.
So going back to just always just wanting representation will always be reactionary. So it's important for any movement to have every nook and cranny politicized. And the more you have it politicized, even with people with the arms, the harder imperialism will be able to penetrate it. So that's definitely important to note. So I guess I have another thought, and it's kind of like we talk about kind of liberalism, how self-interested they were, and how I guess just crumbs in the grand scheme of things could help them disunite with the masses, but kind of also where was I going with this? Okay, I lost it. I'm sorry.
No, but you're, I'm actually gonna like, hop in and because what you said about like wanting crumbs in the grass, right? I think, there's always this call out within liberalism, like, oh, representation, right? But a reminder that like all representation is not good representation. All representation is not what we need. And just being represented is definitely not what we need, right? Because what essentially ends up happening, as we see within, this biography, is that in people wanting to be heard, people wanting to be represented, wanting to receive a small, crumb of this, so-called bourgeoisie lifestyle, they end up accepting, things that completely go against what the interests of the people are. And, every now and then I wonder, historically, these sellouts, right? If at some point in their lives, they have looked back and thought, man, I can't believe, I can't believe that I, sided with imperialism, that I sided with colonialism, right? I wonder if, Kasavubu looked back and was like, dang, I still didn't win. At the end of all of this betrayal, I still lost.
There's a few cases, especially if you kind of see throughout history, the coups kept happening, right? So there was always times where, these puppets were like, you know what? Let me do something for my people. And do you know how quickly they're out? Because they just, of course they didn't have any political line. They're just self-interested. So it's kind of like, if you're that self-interested and haven't done the time or to kind of have a political line, and all of a sudden you want a political line after you got rid of everyone who had that political line and you could build cadre with. It's like there's no one there to protect you after So individualism is always a lose-lose situation, no matter what. Even when you think it's a win, it's gonna be a losing situation. And we kind of see just how quickly Patrice Lumumba got it. How many years was it? We talked about earlier where he was had this centrist kind of manifesto, and just how radicalized, after meeting Nkrumah and meeting all these people, and like I always said, people have an understanding what's going on, but it's just that having a strong political line to kind of make sense and bring everything together. And then once you get that, it's like there's a just level of conscience you just can't come back from. So
yeah, I love that. Oh my gosh, because oh man, it's so wild to be at the end of this book and reflecting on the start of it, right? Lumumba coming in as part of this so-called bourgeoisie class, and seeing, what was wrong with it, right? Seeing that that is not how liberation is going to be won. And I think, that's where, when we talk about our second principle of unity, right, being that we're all equal, I think that that's one of the parts where we have to give each other some sort of, what is that word? Grace, right? Because in understanding, how we have been taught, Lumumba was taught, to be that evolue, right? The so-called evolved class, through the readings, through, the education, and in the midst of being with the people, changing that, right? Could you imagine what the Congo would have been like? Can you imagine how we would be studying such revolutionaries had people, like Lumumba not been given an opportunity to evolve, right, and to change and to become better comrades with the people, right, to learn better? And can you imagine?
Right. And then also, this history we're learning right now, it's not the history that's being produced, being put into the hands of the masses in the West, right? There's a lot of stuff. Lumumba was incompetent, unyielding, selfish, and incompetent leader. But the story told by the masses is completely different, right? So, you could kind of, it's funny going back and reading certain sources of these revolutions being incompetent. There was always some Belgian person, behind it. Like a lot of the propaganda against Lumumba was written by Belgian people, but it's good that people like this, Kwame Nkrumah, kept the true story, the revolutionary story alive. So I guess right now we're going to go into a fundraising more for Hammer City. Right now we're at $40. So we're going to see if we could try to get this 100 by the end of the book trap, if we can. So, but in the case, we do have another revolutionary book trap while you guys are donating and keep on sharing this post. So while you guys are thinking of this trivia, see if you can collect reparations, donate anything that's small. This is our last book trap.
Yes.
So let's go with a bang. Getting this $100. It would end it with a bang of this book trap, because it has been awesome and been awesome.
It has,
strength.
and I agree. Let's get to that goal and beyond in this last Patrice Lumumba book trap, right? And remembering that this, these collections that we're getting for Hammer City, right? This is for the masses. This is for colonized people.
Right. Big up to Christina for the 1555. So that means we're at 5555 right now. 5555.
I love it.
I see what you did.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So let's see. Okay, this book trap trivia. Go ahead and get those donations in while we read this. And yeah, also begin y'all read.
You just got $30 from colonizer.
30. What, y'all?
What? Thank that colonizer for the
with those reparations from colonizers.
we're at 85.55. We just need $15 more to reach our goal. But go ahead and read the book trap trivia today.
I was about to say, where Chief Shagun in the comments counting up for me. All right, so this question says, this Ghanaian general was essential to the UN occupation of Congo and later key in the counter-revolutionary coup of Kwame Nkrumah's Ghana in 1966. Was it Jerry Rawlings? Was it Kofi Busia? Was it Joseph Ankara? Or was it Edward Addo? Who was it? Akufo Addo.
Yeah.
Comrade Dream got €5 on it.
Comrade, it's Dream. Thank you.
Yes.
I always like that Adventure Time, Abby. Pretty sure it's from Adventure Time, right? I don't know if you've seen that show. Awesome show.
Wait, which show?
Adventure Time?
Oh, that's a throwback.
Yeah. That's it.
Yes. All right, so let's see. What answers y'all got? Okay, Benjamin is thinking.
This is a hard one. I feel like this is a hard one because there's multiple answers that seem really appealing right here.
Right. And y'all, you hear the baby in the background, okay? She's trying to force me to pick her up here, so.
Is it A? I don't know.
Is it
B?
A? Tiger said, is it B? Is it B?
B? No. So what's the £5 conversion? So if we're at 85.55, £5, what's that, like 8 USD? About something like that. So maybe we need like 8 more, 10 more, just to be safe. But yes. So what's the answer? What's the answer to this question?
The answer is C.
Joseph Arthur and Kra.
Yeah.
There's actually other generals involved too. There was I think something O2 and then General Alexander, who were the kind of like top dogs of the Ghanaian general that weren't listening to Nkrumah during the occupation of Congo and were essential and bought out by the imperialist powers to overthrow Kwame Nkrumah's Ghana in 1966. And just the maybe I can't go into too details about, but the amount of propaganda in Kwame Nkrumah's early Ghana when he was nationalizing a lot of Ghana's resources to benefit the people, and the propaganda against them was immense during that time. But okay, Chief Oju giving $5. So now we're about just $5 more. $5 more to our goal. So we're almost there. So thank you so much.
Yes. Who's gonna help us get to that, like that
Who's gonna help us
last
get there?
$5 in this last book trap with Cthulhu and I and Lumumba?
$5.
Yes. And make sure you're getting those read that backs ready too for when it
Right.
comes up.
So we're going to a next audience read back. Oh wait, yeah, we're going to I guess our last read that back right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say we have that last read that back now.
Right.
All right, so this last read that back, it says a storm of protests broke out throughout the world when these brutal and foul murders were made public 3 weeks later. Africa had lost one of its noblest sons, and Nkrumah, a younger brother. In a broadcast to the Ghanaian people on 14th February 1961, Nkrumah rightly accused UN officials as well as the imperialist powers of being accomplices of this crime. He says, somewhere in Katanga in the Congo, where and when we do not know, 3 of our brother freedom fighters have been done to death. They have been killed. Patrice Lumumba, the Prime Minister of the Republic of the Congo, Maurice Mpolo, the minister of his government, who was elected from Katanga province, and Joseph Okito, the vice president of the Congolese Senate. About their end, many things are uncertain, but one fact is crystal clear. They have been killed because the United Nations, whom Patrice Lumumba himself as prime minister had invited to the Congo to preserve law and order, not only failed to maintain that law and order, but also denied to the lawful government of the Congo all other means of self-protection. History records many occasions when rulers of states have been assassinated. The murder of Patrice Lumumba and of his 2 colleagues, however, is unique in that it is the first time in history that the legal ruler of a country has been done to death with the open connivance of a world organization in whom that ruler put his trust. These are the facts. Patrice Lumumba was appointed prime minister by the departing Belgian authorities because he was the leader of the parliamentary party with the largest representation and was the only member of parliament who could obtain a majority in both the Senate and the chamber. Kasavubu was subsequently elected the ceremonial head of state, but it was clearly agreed and understood that he should have no more authority or power than the king of the Belgians in Belgium. So, one reason why I pulled out this read that back is because as we look at the murder of Patrice Lumumba, we really have to acknowledge the things that imperialism does in order to stop the revolution from happening, right? In order to stop full and complete liberation. And it's also a moment of us to acknowledge the impact that these revolutionary deaths have on the people, right? We saw throughout this entire biography how the people stood behind Lumumba because Lumumba stood behind the people, right? Lumumba was learning from the people and putting forth what the people wanted. So what imperialism didn't realize, what these, Belgians didn't realize when they murdered Patrice Lumumba, when the United Nations murdered Patrice Lumumba, when the United States murdered Patrice Lumumba, was that Patrice Lumumba would never, in fact, die, right? Because he was going to be upheld by the people, by the masses. His revolution was going to continue on, and it did. And I love even, the fact that at the beginning of this book trap, I had shared with you all that this book itself was published and written by Nkrumah's, publishing company, right? So even in Lumumba's death, Nkrumah found it important, to share the story of his brother. And I just think that that's like something so essential to pull out from here. They may have murdered Lumumba, but they didn't murder the cause. They didn't murder the revolution. They're not going to stop Black Hammer from moving forward. They're not going to stop revolutionaries that are coming forth from moving forward, right? They didn't stop the Congo from getting its eventual, independence, right? They didn't stop, East African countries like Tanzania. They didn't stop the Julius Nyerere from coming forth, right? If anything, what imperialism did was birth new revolutionaries with the murder of Patrice Lumumba.
Right. And also, I think it's important to, the book always mentions the youth that were under the MNC during Lumumba. So Lumumba was jailed probably 30 times, and I guess on the third time is when his death occurred. But during this whole time, when he was jailed, and there was a time where he was in captivity with the UN, but the UN would not let him speak on communication. So it's like it's even more obvious what side the UN was on. But some of his contemporaries who were younger stepped up, and the masses stepped up. There was a time where Kasavubu, the people armed themselves and then took over Northern Katanga and some other place, I forget. But Kasavubu was speaking, trying to talk to the people, and the people were like, "No, Kasavubu, get out of here! You're not Uhuru." And Uhuru, Patrice Lumumba is Uhuru, and Uhuru means freedom in Swahili. So it's like, the people knew, and during the whole time. When Patrice Lumumba was in captivity, there's just so many people who stepped up. The people stepped up and the leaders. So it goes to Principle Union number 4. Only through leadership can white supremacy, all these things be smashed. And we don't the revolutionary definition of leadership. It's not some person who's like, all right, I get the final say in everything. Blah, 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 right? So it's just leadership, right? It could be anyone, anything, leadership. So
yeah, absolutely. And I feel like that's something that the Belgians misunderstood about African people, right? And even when you look historically about colonized people, leadership does not exist, in one sole person. It does not start and end with one person. That leadership is shared. And, what the Belgians wanted to do, what the United Nations wanted to do was to make that leadership singular so that they could take part in it. And that was their ultimate failure, right? And one thing, as we close out this book, I definitely don't want it, I don't want us to exemplify, the so-called like failures of Lumumba, right? Or the failures of, those Africans who sold out, right? Let's look at the failures that the United Nations had. how the Belgians failed to truly grab hold of that land that they wanted because of its wealth, how the United Nations thought using African people to get its own, piece of the Congo was, going to be them grabbing that leadership, right? But essentially that was a failure on their part, right? The United States, failure when they were, backing up their birth United Nations, If anything, this like biography shows us how successful Lumumba was within this revolution, and how, and I'm going to actually change that tense to how successful Lumumba is, right? And how successful the people of the Congo are, because they knew that they wanted to be free, right? They knew that there was the question of the land, as we saw a few segments ago. They knew that there was a question of removing colonizers in order to make sure that they had what they needed, right? To make sure that their land was returned. And I think that that's such a powerful thing, to consider, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I just like to give a quick shout out to Comrade Zinu Hammer, who donated $10 earlier. So now I definitely think we're past our goal. So thank you so much, and we'll miss you too. We'll miss everyone. So, but I guess as we head into the final audience read that backs, I guess we kind of discuss what this book means to us and Lumumba's legacy means to us. So I guess I'll go first. It's just, I guess my family being from, I guess, the Ashanti region of Ghana, is just, having such a different perspective on these African revolutionaries than, the Western media like kind of gave me, and just getting that perspective, and just going to details of, their how they failed, but also allow their successes too. And it's important that, we as revolutionaries, not only learn from the mistakes, but keep their legacy going on, and make sure, how it's important to the unity of the colonized masses, Africa to, Turtle Island to, the global South. But so that's what this book meant to me, and it kind of, inspired me to just look up a lot more African history, and I can't wait to go into and read other African revolutionaries also. How about you?
Thank you for sharing that, Vincent. In looking at, this biography and Lumumba's legacy in particular, for me, it's like an eye opener, right? Where growing up, I remember growing up, hearing things like, oh, they murdered Patrice Lumumba, right? And, as a kid, not knowing what that meant, or, anytime anyone mentioned like the Congo or Africa, hearing about these revolutionaries that were murdered, I didn't know what that meant as a child. And, I'm really glad that, I had the opportunity of, using this like biography as political education, right? Because it allowed me, as an African in particular, to really hone in on, the beauty that arise from the like unity that we have, right? I am, a studier, like a chosen, studier of Africa, right? Like my chosen, the chosen, profession that I have, right? The chosen gift that I have is for doing research, on the continent of Africa. And, this like really, it allowed me to take a moment and to reflect on a modern, a more like modern colonial history, right? And also a reminder that these things that we consider when we think about, Lumumba's death, right? Like we think, oh, it was so long ago. We don't think of the colonial era as being now. We
Right.
don't think of the colonial era as being the 1960s. And, we have been taught by our colonial education system to envision, colonization happening in the 1700s, the 1600s, stealing the Africans from the land. And, that isn't the case, because when we look at this text, we see very clearly that colonialism is now, it's happening now. This was, in the 1960s, where colonized people were fighting for, their freedom in the US. Colonized people around the world were also fighting for liberation of their land. And, I think like having an opportunity to use, this like piece of political education and to, reflect on this, like with, my comrades and, with those who are like in the audience, it touches home in more of a way than I imagined it would.
Right.
I was, initially I was excited to, oh, like, we get to do something from the continent. And so like after diving into it, it really allowed me more of a reflection than I expected it would. And I really hope that, all of you were able to take away, from this political education, and that you are able to internalize these things and, to like put it next to the principles of unity that we, stand firm on, right? That this is going to help you to maintain your political line. And remembering that it is the colonized proletariat who are the true leaders, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So yes. So that's awesome. But one thing is important to know is colonization doesn't just affect continental Africans. And here in the BookTrap, we go all over the world, baby. So going to announcements, where are we going next?
Yes. Oh, I'm so excited.
First, let's talk about the colonizer. Oh, can you talk about the colonizer class a little bit?
Yeah, I got you. Okay, so the colonizer class, in surrounded around like our principles of unity, right? This is specifically a class that is, put into place to help, organize and re-educate colonizers, who do unite with our political line, right? And then getting you like, if you don't unite to that political line, if you're struggling with, who should be, the true leadership, right? If you're struggling with the question of land, come and join this colonizer class so that you can, understand why. Very often the knowledge that colonizers get are based on the teachings of other colonizers. But how can you truly learn, right, what colonized people are, calling for, what colonized people, are wanting, if you only listen to people who look like you, right? So that's what this class, is for. So guys, get all of, your colonizer friends, your colonizer mom, your colonizer daddy, your colonizer boo, and bring them to this class. They can sign up at blackhammer.org/reparations. Okay. If there's like anything, say, any like particular questions that you have, definitely, reach out to Black Hammer, right? And get into this class, do some relearning. All right. What is next on our announcement? Oh, yes. So excited, y'all. Today we have Forging the Hammer. I love our Forging the Hammer. These are our monthly political, education studies for, anyone who has not been to one. If you want to be part of Forging the Hammer today, then you need to go ahead, go to blackhammer.org/join so that you can join Black Hammer and get in on, Forging the Hammer, right? Remember, everybody got to be there, okay? This is our mandatory PE. This is us coming together, building cadre, okay? This is us coming together, smashing liberalism, smashing individualism, and being around all of our comrades. So come today, y'all, 3 Eastern time, okay? Go ahead and translate that to your respective time zone. All right, and then our next,
Right.
yes. Oh, so exciting. Okay, so the next book trap is going to be the Zapatistas, y'all. All right, with comrades Carlos and comrade Daniel. And guess what's so fly? They're twins. This is going to be so lit. All right, I'm going to shut up so y'all can go ahead and introduce yourselves.
All right, yeah, Len back. I'm Comrade Daniel, the younger half of the Valdez twins. Yeah, don't adjust your screen during anything. You're seeing it right. There are 2 Valdezes in the building. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to going over this book with my brother. It's going to be a real good experience for us to learn more about basically the spiritual ancestors of Emiliano Zapata, who led the peasant revolution during the Mexican Revolution. Yeah, we're gonna learn, we're gonna grow both as revolutionaries and as twin brothers. I just wanna look forward to everything that we're gonna go through with all y'all for the next month. I'm back.
Talk about building.
I'm excited for that. Let's go. But yeah, I guess bittersweet, but this concludes our book trap, right?
Yeah. This concludes our book trap. Next week, a heads up. So for the Zapatistas, y'all are looking at the introduction and chapter 1. So, make sure y'all read. Make sure you have your read that backs ready for the Valdez brothers, to come in here and give us this political education. I'm so excited for y'all. Talk about cadre building as brothers. This is going to be lit.
All right.
All right. Kathunsin, it's been real. Y'all, it's been real.
Fun.
Land back. Hold
Land
up
back.
the line. Land back.
Everybody have a wonderful Sunday.
Yes.
And see you next week.